Water tastes like poison now, and what I crave instead is terrifying. There's a desert in my throat. I've been standing here at my kitchen sink for I don't know how long, watching the water pour from the tap. It looks so clean, so perfect. It catches the light from the cheap fluorescent strip above and glitters like a rope of diamonds. My hands are shaking, I just want to drink. But I can't. It all started, I think, with him. The man from the alley. I saw him for the first time last week on my way to the office. I was cutting through the service lane behind a row of restaurants, the air thick with the smell of stale beer and frying oil. My music was loud, a wall of sound to block out the morning. Then, in a pause between songs, I heard a scraping sound, then a wet slap. I pulled out an earbud. In the grimy mouth of the alley, a man was crouched over a leaking dumpster. He was thin, a scarecrow in stained layers of clothing. He wasn't digging for food. He was hunched over a puddle on the asphalt, a shimmering rainbow slick of garbage juice and rainwater. He lowered his head, his matted hair brushing the ground, and began to lap at it. Like a dog. His tongue darted out, quick and gray, slurping at the foul liquid. He didn't seem to notice me. He didn't seem to notice anything but the puddle. When he lifted his head, a line of the iridescent filth trickled from his chin down into his beard. His eyes were closed, and on his face was a look of pure, agonizing relief. The memory makes my stomach twist. I blinked it away, focusing again on the stream of water cascading into my sink. So clean, so useless. My own tongue feels thick and heavy, like a piece of dry leather. I put my hand under the stream, letting the cold water run over my skin. It feels like nothing. I know, logically, that if I cut my hand and drink, my thirst should go away. But then I remember the second time I saw him, and the nausea comes back so strong I have to grip the edge of the counter. It was 2 nights ago. I was on the last bus home, staring blankly out the window as the city lights smeared past. The bus lurched to a halt, throwing me forward in my seat. The driver was yelling something. People were standing up, craning their necks to see. And there he was, in the middle of the street, caught in the glare of our headlights. He was staggering in a wild, broken circle, his movements sharp and spastic. He was bent low, his hands clawing at the air just above the pavement. A pigeon, I think it was, one of its wings, bent at a sick angle, was trying to flutter away from him. He lunged. His hands closed around the bird with a muffled crunch. A woman near me screamed. He didn't wring its neck. He didn't even seem to register it as a living thing. He just brought the struggling, flapping bird to his mouth, its feathers brushing against his lips. And then he bit into it. He tore a chunk from its breast, and a spray of dark blood misted the air. The sounds were horrific. The wet tearing, the frantic flapping of the bird's one good wing, and a low, guttural sucking noise he made as he pressed his mouth to the wound. He wasn't eating it. He was draining it. We all just sat there, frozen, watching this nightmare unfold in the sterile wash of the bus's headlights. When he was done, he threw the limp, ragged carcass aside with a snarl of frustration. He threw his head back, his face a mask of anguish, and a raw, broken scream tore out of his throat. "I'm so thirsty." The words echoed in the dead, silent bus. Then, as if waking from a trance, he looked around, his eyes wide and panicked, and scrambled back into the darkness of a side street. The bus drove on. No one said a word. When I got home, the image of his face was seared into my mind. I couldn't eat. The thought of food just brought back the sight of torn feathers and exposed flesh. Sleep was a battle I lost for hours. When it finally came, it brought no peace. I dreamed I was standing in a vast, shallow lake under a bruised, copper-colored moon. The water was unnaturally still and the color of old blood. All around me, immense, leafless trees rose up out of the murk, their bark like wrinkled gray skin. They seemed to go on forever into the black sky. I felt like I was being watched, not by a person, but by the trees themselves. An ancient, heatful attention. The air was dead silent, until a soft, rhythmic clicking began, like a million tiny insects. It came from the trees. As I watched, their trunks seemed to pulse, to breathe. The bark shuddered, and thin fissures opened up, weeping more of the thick, red water down into the lake. I heard, or maybe I felt, a low, resonant hum from high above, a sound of deep and ancient hunger. The dread was a physical weight, crushing my chest. I had to look away. I stared down at the water at my feet. In its glassy surface, I saw movement. Pale, worm-like things, thin and eyeless, were writhing just beneath the surface. They coiled and uncoiled in a silent, hypnotic dance. The fear began to recede, replaced by a strange calm. They were beautiful, in a way. They felt familiar. My mouth began to water. A droplet of saliva fell from my lip and hit the surface, sending out slow, syrupy ripples. The dancing stopped. Every single one of them turned in the water, their featureless heads pointing up at me. They were waiting. I don't know why I did it. I knelt down. I cupped my hands and dipped them into the thick, cool liquid. The pale things swarmed into my palms, their bodies slick and wriggling against my skin. I brought my hands to my mouth and I drank. I drank it all. I felt them slide down my throat, a squirming, living tide. And in the dream, I smiled. I woke up gasping, my sheets soaked in a cold sweat. There was a coppery taste in my mouth, sharp and metallic. I swallowed and it faded. I told myself it was just a nightmare, a product of the disgusting things I'd seen. That was 2 days ago, 2 days of hell. It started as a tickle, the kind you get when you're coming down with a cold. I'd drink some water, it would vanish for a minute, and then it would be back, a little stronger each time. I thought nothing of it. By yesterday, it was a constant, rasping ache. My tongue felt swollen, my lips chapped and splitting. Every swallow was like dragging gravel down my throat. Water didn't help. Nothing helped. Back here, in my kitchen, the tap is still running. That man's desperate cry is a drumbeat in my skull. I filled a glass a minute ago, my hand trembling so badly that water sloshed over the sides. I stared at it. It was clear, pure, life-giving, and it looked like poison. My body screamed for moisture, but every instinct recoiled from the glass in my hand. It was just water, from my own tap. But the thought of drinking it made me want to gag. I forced myself. I brought the glass to my lips. The taste was vile, like sulfur and rot. A fresh wave of fire erupted in my throat. I spat it into the sink, coughing and choking. I tried everything in my fridge: juice, milk, soda, beer. Each one was worse than the last, an acidic, putrid assault on my senses. Then I decided to cook something, to try and feel normal. I took a package of ground beef from the fridge. As I peeled back the plastic film and dropped the meat into a hot pan, my eyes locked on the styrofoam tray in my hand. In the bottom, a small pool of dark, congealed blood had collected. I was just looking at it. My mind felt distant, hazy. I don't remember deciding to do it. I just lifted the tray, tilted it to my lips, and let the cold, thick liquid slide into my mouth. It tasted sweet, rich, like minerals and salt and life. The relief was instantaneous and overwhelming. For maybe 5 glorious seconds, the desert in my throat bloomed. The fire was gone. I was normal. Then it came back. Harder. A raging, all-consuming inferno. The brief moment of peace only made the returning torment 1,000 times worse. I had to get out. The air in my apartment felt thick and dry, like it was being baked in an oven. I grabbed my keys and stumbled out into the night. I didn't have a destination. I just walked, my body on autopilot, driven by a frantic animal need. The streets were a blur. I think I was being led. Some deep, primal part of me knew where it was going. I turned a corner, onto a street I recognized. And I saw him, one last time. He was on his stomach in the middle of the road, trying to drag something out from under a parked car. I could hear the terrified, guttural hissing of a cat. My feet stopped. The sounds of the city faded to a dull roar. The world narrowed to just me and him and the desperate sounds coming from under that car. He grunted with effort, his fingers scrabbling on the asphalt. The cat shot out from the other side. He scrambled after it, a low growl in his throat. A horn blared, deafeningly loud. The screech of tires, a wet, heavy crunch. He was thrown through the air like a doll, landing in a crumpled heap on the pavement. He didn't get up. A car door slammed. A woman was screaming. People were running over. My phone was in my hand. I could have called for help. I should have felt horror. Pity. Something. I felt nothing. All I could do was stare. A pool of blood was spreading out from under his head. It was dark and thick in the orange glow of the streetlights. As I watched it grow, a ripple moved across its surface, and for a fraction of a second I saw them. Tiny, pale, sinuous shapes dancing in the dark liquid, writhing under the surface, beckoning to me. My mouth flooded with saliva. A single thought burned through my mind, clear and sharp and overwhelming. The words felt like they weren't mine, but they slipped from my dry, cracked lips in a quiet whisper. I'm so thirsty.